It is an honor for me to moderate this panel entitled From Bravery to Resilience, From Resilience to Growth, How Ukrainian Small and Medium Enterprises Drive Recovery Forward. Today's discussion is divided into two rounds. Round one will focus on Ukraine's new SME strategy. Round two will focus on the transformation of the Business Development Fund, the BDF, into a national SME institution. We are fortunate to have esteemed panelists today. In round one, on the stage right with me, focusing on SME strategy, is Shohei Hara, who is the Senior Vice President, Japan International Cooperation Agency, with experience in overseeing financial support SMEs. Alexei Sobolev, Deputy Minister of the Economy of Ukraine, with an extensive background in investment and financial structures. Christian Leibach, who a board member of KfW, an expert in structure and development finance, and Ola Trofimova, Cluster Manager of Ukrainian Automotive and Mobility Cluster, with 20 years of experience in supporting and developing SMEs. In round two, we have, the team will be changed a little bit. Alexei Sobolev and Olga Trofimova will be replaced by Olha Zhikova, who's the Deputy Minister of Finance of Ukraine, who's responsible for development and implementation of state policy in the area of cooperation with international financial organizations. Andrei Hapon, Executive Director of the Business Development Fund, experience in providing SMEs with access to finance, and Maria Repko, Deputy Executive Director of the Center of Economic Strategy, an expert in macroeconomic stability, focusing on monetary and fiscal policy. Let me set the context for today's discussion. Investment in and development of SMEs was my fund's primary mission since its inception in 1994. There were no SMEs in Ukraine when the fund started 30 years ago. To invest in SMEs, we helped create a business climate, overcoming decades of Soviet criminalization of private business. On the eve of Russia's 2022 invasion, Ukraine's business climate was significantly different than what we encountered in 1994. And SMEs made up 16% of Ukraine's economy, which was far less than the 80 or 90% SMEs comprise in thriving economies. The war displaced and suspended the activities of many SMEs, but yet many survived nonetheless, and to the surprise of many outside observers. But what is the future of SMEs in Ukraine? The goal of this panel is to discuss how Ukraine's SMEs ecosystem can be substantially strengthened to support Ukraine's economy, reconstruction, and economic growth. By showcasing the support of different international partners, the panel will address key pillars of such support as framework conditions and policy advice, institutional strengthening and capacity building, and as well as financing instruments. Ukrainian government representatives will present the new SME strategy and the transformation of the Business Development Fund into a national SME institution. In preparation for this Ukraine Recovery Conference, Ukraine and Germany established the SME Reliance Alliance, a coordination mechanism through which the development of partners and donors can commit to complement Ukraine's government's efforts in SME development. You will hear more about the alliance at the end of this panel when the Federal Minister of Economic Cooperation and Development, Svenja Schulze, and Deputy Minister of the Economy, Alexei Sobolev, launched the program. Now let's start round one discussion. First question is to you, Alexei. Despite the devastating consequences of the war, Ukraine's SMEs exhibited remarkable resilience. And initially after the start of the war, 64% of them were threatened with shutdown or temporary suspension. And yet by October 2023, only 9.7% are at risk. How do you explain this phenomenon?
Well, as you've heard, I don't know, I think everybody knows. So yesterday, Chancellor Scholz, I think, explained it. So it's in the people, right? So like we know that the SME is resilient just because they restart if anything is damaged. And we have many stories about that. So Rubizhanska fabrika that has a brand of Dodo socks, like funny socks that people wear, was shelled by Russians and it just restarted started in a different region, kind of moved the factory there. The brand still exists, sells its items, etc. Or we know one of the world's biggest tomato producer in Kherson Oblast, Agrofusion. So with the help of Denmark and IFIs like IFC in the BRD, they within a year restarted production. Half of their factory was destroyed, and they selling tomatoes all over again, sending photos of these tomatoes to me and to the Minister of Economy every week. I don't know, that's a tradition right now. And I have a personal story. Nearby my home, across the road, like a Russian rocket fell and blew up, blown all the windows in the barber shop that I usually come. On the next day, they just shut down with wood this windows, and they were operating all over again. And yeah, I had my haircut. So this is the resilience. It's in the people. That's also like what international partners provided resources for them to be able to do that, and that's the other part. And the government, I think, also did its part, basically rerouting a lot of the assistance, easing the procedures, deregulating, launching granting programs, saying like e-Robota or launching granting programs together with international community to provide funding for businesses and to deregulate. And we also postponed all the inspections to get them out the burden, and we gradually kind of putting inspections back in because of this EU integration. But it's also the businesses also ask they need some kind of supervision, but not like immediately, because they kind of also forgot how to work with them. So we gradually bring this up. I think that like the cooperation between the SMEs, the people, government, and international donor community proved to be very resilient.
Thank you very much. Ola, let's continue with you, because you have, on the same topic, you've worked with SMEs for many years, and even though you're working with the automotive and mobility cluster now, what do you think, how do you explain this resilience from the private business perspective?
Well, actually, I would say messages the same. I have the same messages, but I would put it in two pillars, because yeah, first of all, it's people, Ukrainian people who has a will. The will to win, to be unbreakable, to be brave, right? And resilience for us, it's really hard working between missiles attack and between blackouts. But we made our choice. We made our choice to build our common future with Europe. And yesterday we heard from Ursula von der Leyen that Europe is our home. Ukraine is Europe. And my home city, Kharkiv, is also Europe. Thank you for that. Second, of course, processes. Yes, many companies stopped, but then they start to be united. United company into clusters, consultants into association. And already in March, we initiated a project with GIZ, and I should say that GIZ and BDF was the first institutions, and GIZ exactly, who supported businesses and their resilience, and they're supporting them, and 100 businesses and classes was supported. And thank you for that. The third, it's of course financing. And I couldn't count all actually organizations which gave grants to our companies, to our SMEs. Thank you. You really input a lot of money into our economy. But I also would like to thank all companies, organizations who granted innovation startups. EIT manufacturing with EIT Jumpstarter, EIC with Seeds of Bravery, and others. But we also need private funding as venture capital and private equity funds. This is very important for our future. And of course, fourth, the last but not the least, it's our cooperation and internationalization. I would say that for these 2 years, we step forward more than for the last 10 years. We really started from March with support of EU clusters, with EN, with Chamber of Commerce. We think every day about how to support our resilient SMEs and what to do. We opened and we put Ukraine into a lot of maps. But yes, we also with support with USAID, for example, in March we were in Japan, visited JICA, JAMA. Yesterday I was in VDA head office with Angela Mainz, and tomorrow I'm going to CLEPA. And we are really trying to integrate our SMEs into international supply chains. This could be a good offer to investors, our SMEs who has job, who has future, and who have possibility to return your investments. And of course, yes, that our SMEs needed also to be integrated into supply chain, but also we're interested to have a big player in Ukraine with further localization, please, to develop our SMEs, because manufacturing and industry is still the biggest share in GDP of Ukraine, and we really want to grow our manufacturing sector further. So this is short description. I mean, I would say the same messages, but just in other words, but just also to add that during these 2 years, it was a record number of registering small enterprises, 300,000. 27 of them is companies, and 2,600 it's foreign companies from 100 countries. This is really our future.
Thank you, Ola.
Thank you so much. Stand with Ukraine. Thank you.
Christian, you're an expert in structure and development finance, and KfW has been in Ukraine for many years. How did KfW assist supporting the resilience of SMEs during this critical period in Ukraine's history?
Thanks. First of all, thank you for your intervention, because it shows the energy which is behind that and the motivation you're showing here. Yeah, I think at the moment, and you know that Germany is very much a country of SMEs and the so-called Mittelstand, and so I think we are very familiar with the structure of the companies, very often family-owned businesses, be that smaller or larger. So I think it is at our hearts as well, in particular when it comes to the Ukraine, to look at that segment of the industry, which we think is really, really very important, not only in the situation now, but for the future of the Ukraine, as you described it as well. Yeah. And I think when we look at our interventions over the last 24 months, 26 months, certainly it was a lot about how to provide liquidity, how to really address the immediate needs of the SMEs, be it in form, as you mentioned, in grants or in other instruments. Insurance plays a major role, obviously, and would give much more security to SMEs if they had access to that, because the damage you were just describing from your barbershop is really heartbreaking for a lot of the SMEs. But if you look a bit beyond that and look into the future, I think what we learn and what we can see when we look here at Germany, what SMEs can benefit from, I think even on the financial market and banking market side, it needs somehow an ecosystem for SMEs. And the ecosystem from SMEs, that is that private banks, smaller banks have the ability, have the expertise and know-how to value and to have strategies for SMEs, SME loans, have the liquidity to do that. And in particular, when we look at the situation in the Ukraine at the moment, the banks are under stress as well. So we have been working on guarantee programs for banks in the Ukraine, so that they can get some benefit on their loan portfolios and have the capabilities to lend more loans to SMEs in the future. So it needs an ecosystem, and I think this really devastating situation has something positive, because there's a lot of thinking about that structural initiatives that are taken, and I think that gives me a lot of optimism for the future for the SMEs of the Ukraine.
Thank you. Alexei, why don't you explain what is the new strategy? Yeah, Ukraine has enacted something and is trying to pursue it. How are we going to do that?
Yeah, so we're developing a SME strategy. I think there's like we're 3 weeks away from adopting it by the government decision. It's a like very public consultation process, and we cherish all the comments that you provided, and a lot of them are incorporated in the strategy, because I think like this whole SME recovery is not just the government endeavor, right? It needs to coordinate a lot of donors, and nobody can actually coordinate that many countries, but we can have a single document for all of us saying, yeah, these are the priorities, these are the blueprints, the main ideas that we need to focus to stay coordinated. And I think the next stage is exactly launching the SME alliance of countries implementing that. And one of the instruments to implement that is BDF that KfW is supporting. So what's in the strategy? The strategy meets the basic needs of the business, is coordinate with the national strategic documents. It also coordinates with the Ukraine plan, and there are like 4 main blocks, because we don't have much time to present it, but many of you in the audience, I know, read the draft. So it facilitates business recovery through access to capital resources and deregulation. The second, it promotes innovative activities through digital transformation and green transition incorporated there. Then there's a human capital issue, how we get more people there, and the development of entrepreneurship culture, and it strengthens competitiveness and increases experts, what Olga was also referring to, right? How to get more experts from Ukrainian SMEs to the world. And we're grateful for your comments. So, for example, we took into account the need to expand available financing mechanism and to put like additional financing mechanism and put more efforts on leasing and factoring programs, as well as simplifying access to finance. But also some suggested to have measures with regard to inclusivity, so supporting women, veterans, wider social entrepreneurships, that's also in the strategy. And also there are around like 100 actions that we will be taking over the next 4 years. I think this is all very manageable. And at the end, these actions include already well-established mechanisms like 579, business grants, DA business online and offline tools for educational programs, but some new measures. So, for example, regulatory sandboxes that we can try out stuff, and online matching of entrepreneurs with promising programs, then war risk insurance. And we calculated that the cost of these measures and the strategy around like 8 billion euros across the next 4 years. And I think like this is very feasible, because when we calculate the programs of the SME Alliance partners, it is on the order of magnitude like the same level, which is very great. And in the end, what will we get? We will increase the SME value add for the economy, Ukrainian economy, from 60% to 75%. We will grow the number of SMEs that engage in exports to 60% plus, and add over 100,000 additional micro businesses that have like more than 2 employees. So there is a KPIs of the strategy.
Can I ask you a follow-up question? What assistance does Ukraine need to implement this program? It's a very comprehensive program, and you have 4 steps, but what is it that you need?
So, I think like we getting that into SME Alliance. First is definitely access to finance, but then there are, we need technical assistance to implement the programs, because some of them are innovative on our side. Some of them just require additional resources to develop, and Ukraine can develop them as well. And the last bit, we need definitely coordination among all our partners. So we focus on the issues that we all selected in this SME strategy, and we kind of put our resources there, because what we see, there is a tendency of every system, right, to disperse. And I think like if we focus like on the experts, on the access to finance, on digitalization and innovation of the SMEs, we can have some kind of breakthrough, right, and then really move the needle in how SMEs operate in Ukraine, and so them being more resilient and contributing more to the resilience of the general economy.
Thank you very much. Hara, a question for you. You know, you're an expert in overseeing financial support for SMEs. What is the role of international partners in Ukraine? How do you see that?
Thank you, Jaroslava. Well, to be honest, I'm just newly appointed in my post 2 weeks ago and quite new to Ukraine. And including this panel, this is a very good opportunity for me to know the resilience, determination, as well as the future vision of Ukraine. So I very much thank the organizers for this event. Taking this opportunity, let me just briefly tell you what Japan International Cooperation Agency is doing in Ukraine. We have provided a budget support to the government of Ukraine with the amount of 75 billion US dollars, as well as a grant assistance for recovery and reconstruction, and providing technical assistance in the various areas like covering Build Back Better in the areas of humanitarian demining, post-war, post-disaster waste management, public broadcasting, and etc. And of course, our support including the vital winterization assistance to the Ukraine. And we do have our local presence. Hideki is here in Kiev. He is communicating with many of you. So coming back to your question, the main point is how to implement the strategy that just been articulated by the Deputy Minister. In other words, the role of international partners, including capacity development of the Ministry of Economy, as well as the BDF, and provision of financial resources to BDF through lending, equity participation, guarantee functions, and etc. Japan is known for big companies like Toyota or Sony, etc. But actually, 99.7% of the Japanese companies are SMEs. So, like in Germany, we are, a country of SME. And we do have plenty of experiences in promoting the SME sector since the days of recovery from the World War II. And we can share such experiences and knowledge out of these experiences through training programs, as well as covering both successes and failures. Importance, in addition to that, JICA has a number of cases of working together with the financial intermediaries in Asia in supporting SMEs, like in countries like Bangladesh, India, and other countries in the Southeast Asia. And we do have such lessons learned from our involvement in the SME sector, like importance of discretion of interest rate setting by the intermediary banks, need to know the reality of SMEs and additional technical assistance, the financial intermediaries wherever necessary, and necessity of maintaining financial health of the intermediary banks by adhering to rigorous risk analysis and assessment, necessary provisions for non-performing loans, and close monitoring of lending portfolio. Well, these are standard recipe, but it's quite difficult to strike a fine balance between the strategic intentions and the maintenance of good financial status of the banks. This is where the various technical cooperation can play its role, like capacity development of intermediary banks and also training even to the end users in order to raise their awareness about accounting rules and business plan development, etc. Coming back to Ukraine, we have a program called as Ninja, which is to help Ukrainian startups brush up their business plans and match up with the Japanese companies. Also, just recently, along with the IFC, KfW, EBRD, and USDFC, we co-invested to the horizontal capital through our private sector investment finance scheme. JICA's investment in this fund will be used for the sustainable development of export-oriented ICT startups and tech companies in Ukraine and Moldova. This is a case of a risk sharing among the international partners. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Well, to summarize this round, obviously, we can see that the resilience of Ukrainian SMEs is, as Mr. Schultz said yesterday, it's the people. The people, in coordination with government, with international financial institutions, have helped keep the SMEs afloat, and in fact now they make about 14.4% of the business environment, and it's a good base upon which to build to the 60 or 70 or 80% that both Germany and Japan have. So that's important. And I think it's clear that the four elements objectives of the SME strategy can only be carried out if there are other donors, if the donors support and provide the basis upon which to develop them. Ukraine has given us a framework, a pathway, and the question is how we go down that pathway. Now we have to proceed to round two, and so we have logistically, I have to thank Alexei Sobolev and Olha Trofimova to leave the stage, and we'll be joined by Olha Zhikova, Andrei Hapon, and Maria Repko. Please. Yes.
Special thanks for European Commission and DG GROW for their single market programs and open possibilities for SMEs. Thank you.
Olha. Thank you very much. Come on, Andrei. Ukraine's recovery process needs a strong and substantial institution, sustainable institutions. Okay. Ukraine's recovery process needs strong and sustainable institutions capable of mobilizing funding and providing tailor-made instruments and specific knowledge to SMEs. And the Business Development Fund has been around for several years and in fact has had access to finance and made access to finance available to SMEs. Especially during the war, the BDF has become the main financial instrument for SMEs. Olha, for you I have a question. The Ministry of Finance has started a full-fledged transformation of the BDF into a national SME institutions. I know the legislation has been prepared, and it's almost ready to be passed and affirmed. The question is, how are you going to implement it, and what is needed to make it a national institution similar to KfW and JICA in Ukraine?
Thanks. It's actually a great question to kick off this part of the panel, because we are envisaging a high point, time spot, despite the fact that it's a war condition, for BDF to actually be transformed and have the processes being transformed into the national development institution for SMEs. Let's get back into the roots. Actually, we are dealing with an institution which was initially driven by Ukrainian and German side as Ukraine-German Fund. And I think that historic-wise, we've seen quite a great gains obtained during the story of the existence of the fund. And when the war started, when Russia started its invasion, the key institution which actually provided access to financing to SMEs and fueling the economy with the opportunity to stay afloat was BDF. And with this, we consider this is the right moment to actually support the institution which actually during the active war already has 17 new projects and programs, which is, I think, the result of very well-crafted internal policy and management of the fund. But also we at the Ministry of Finance support the idea of extend the activities. And it's not only about giving the helping hand to SMEs, but it's also to create the conditions for Ukrainian citizens to get back, as the environment is being created with the fund activities. And SME support here is under very clear fiscal responsibility issue as well. And every new well-crafted strategy needs institution. We are working towards making the institution as strong as possible so that every new strategy that comes as the governmental decision has the basis to work with and has the institution to implement it. And within the wider framework, with the new vision, we would like to see the National Development Institution as part of the EU path of Ukraine, because actually BDF will apply for undergoing EU pillar assessment, so that to broaden the spectrum not only of the activities but also of the donors and supporting partners, which might be additional help in hand to KfW, which, by the way, is doing a great job with regards to keeping the institution as core player. Actually, this is the core player for economic growth as of now, and we as the Ministry of Finance see it to develop in a more sophisticated way with the higher attention to strong capacity of the fund and the reputation that the fund is already having actually is a good basis for other partners to get engaged, to broaden it towards the transformation with regards to the National Development Institution for SMEs.
You know, As a fund that has been involved in SME development for 30 years, we welcome the fact that the government will now have an agency that, in fact, will be able to do that, because we were doing it piecemeal with other NGOs and other groups, but having someone foster and support the effort is very important. Andrea, thank you very much. Andrea, a question to you. You've been chaired the BDF for several years now, and how did SME support implemented change over the course of those 5 years, last 5 years, for example?
Well, thank you for your question, great one, because it happens that I came to BDF on the role of the executive director in the crisis times. So COVID started. So these times was very hard for every business in Ukraine, and we also have a lot of SMEs in Ukraine, like in Japan, in Germany, and this is our backbone of our economy. And the government task was to create the opportunity for them for access to finance. And we started this program, Affordable Loans 579, that became the most successful story in the history of Ukraine by its value and its impact that it has on economy of Ukraine. With full-scale Russian aggressions that started in 2022, some opportunities changes for SMEs, and 579 program was also changed. Because of this, we created a new priorities, we created a new possibilities for SMEs to survive during this time period. I really hope that someday I will be like the chairperson of the BDF when it's normal time, but I never thought that. That it will be so long to take. Today, I should say that BDF is a second-level financial institution that works closely with 40 banks, and we are going to continue our partnerships with banks and work through them to help SMEs to get access to finance. During the war, we forged new international partnerships with many organizations such as World Bank, JIZ, UNDP, Luxembourg Development Agency, Western East, also now our partners nowadays. So I believe our track record says everything about us, that we are fulfilling our obligations and give impact for business, give impact for economy. So I would like to invite our existing partners and potential new ones that will be maybe here now to contribute more with BDF to Ukraine. And we need our corporate rebuilding nowadays to be finished soon. And we will be more strong and more open for new investments. So please, everyone, you should know where to come to Ukraine when you're looking for projects that will work. Thank you.
Thank you. A brief follow-up question. What are the main challenges facing you now?
Main challenge that we are facing now, I believe, is written in the strategy of SMEs also, like Deputy Minister of Economy already said. We have our problems with energy nowadays. We should work with this somehow. I suppose, in my humble opinion, we need some national program to help our SMEs to be more independent and energy efficiency. We already have a great support from KfW through program Bring Energy to Your Business that is going on nowadays. And many entrepreneurs already installed solar panels thanks to this program. But it's not enough, and we believe that it should be enlarged. The second problem, I believe, is human resources. It's also very important to us to understand how we can provide the same amount of economic output without so many men and women who left the country or died during this war. We will face a lot of challenges before us, but we also have great partners that can help us. Thank you, Representative of Japan. You said very well about this. You have a lot of experience. After the war, you created something new. You have your losses, you have your pluses and minuses, but you created a very strong economical field. Also, thanks to KfW, also was created after the war, and it was created to contribute of recovering of economy. And I believe our mission, our first mission, is to be such institution that will recover economy of Ukraine in the future.
Thank you very much, and well, because that was a good segue for you, Christian. Obviously, KfW was set up in 1948 as an institution to help rebuild the German economy. And what lessons did you learn from that experience that could be applied to Ukraine right now? You were successful. How did you do it?
Yeah, we were founded in 1948, and actually we were not as yet as advanced as the BDF is already today, because KfW started with 12 people in an apartment building in Frankfurt, and so yeah, way more advanced than KfW was at the time after the war. Yeah, I think what we have learned, and I think that's something you're anyway doing already, German government and KfW decided at the time that the Marshall Funds will not be just granted to companies, but it will be a revolving fund, yeah, and that was the basis for the capital basis for KfW, and showed that it doesn't need necessarily grants, but it needs good loans and attractive loans for SMEs to have access to finance and have an attractive access to finance, yeah. But I think what we have learned over the years, and we are in discussions about that, I think when you want to enlarge an institution and make it attractive for international money, international investors, I think all what is around governance, what it is around transparency is very, very important, because I think it will be important if the institution will grow for the next years and really play the role the government is foreseen for it. It needs still international funding for that, and that means it needs the trust of the donors at the beginning. But I think when we look at our history, when we really were able to expand our business, was when we had access to capital markets. Yeah, and access to capital market means really you need trust, you need transparency, you need a very, very good governance. And we have signed just yesterday, the German Minister of Finance and the Ukrainian Minister of Finance, an agreement on consultancy and advisory on institution building. We think it's great that with the BDF there is a nucleus for that, which is already shows that it can act successfully. So it's a really great, in that sense, a great situation that BDF can work from there. And I think what the other part, and you mentioned that and described it very, very well, is to design programs which really take up the specific needs of SMEs in certain situations. And that is changing over time. I mean, now it is about, because facilities are destroyed, nowadays pretty soon, and you have had that anyway already on your agenda, it came to climate-related issues, to energy efficiency, to green energy, to be able to have a management in place which is really able to design programs for the specific needs of SMEs. I think is one of the success factors we can mention when we look back at our own history. Yeah.
You mentioned that Germany now has 80–90% SME country. How long after the war did it take you to reach that level? Because obviously you weren't at that percent in 1948.
No, I don't think, no, definitely not. But on the other side, I think, and that's probably true for the Ukraine as well, I mean, SMEs have one characteristic, and that's they're very flexible. Mm-hmm. So they can take up this new situation pretty quickly. And I think the same was true for the after Second World War in Germany. Flexibility on the one side, and on the other side, a lot of family-owned business with a long-term perspective, not really deciding from quarter to quarter on any results, but having a long-term view on where they want to go. Mm-hmm. And but it was mentioned earlier as well, where I think it needs both. It needs SMEs and it needs larger industries the SMEs can work with. and deliver and be a supplier for certain goods. And so I think it's always bits and parts, and to make an economy overall successful. But maybe one last word, what I mentioned already in the first round is I think it needs really an ecosystem. It needs an ecosystem that the commercial banks as well, the savings banks, whatever, understand your products. I think you're very well advanced already on that, but it can only work hand in hand. A government institution can only play a very good role if really the whole financial market and the banking market goes hand in hand with that and understands the product, understands what their SMEs need, and can transfer it then to a government institution as we are as well.
Well, there are definitely lessons to be learned from your experience. Hara, hello, back to you. What would be your recommendation to help make a BDF a national institution for SMEs? What do you suggest from your experience?
Actually, JICA is, unlike KfW, we do not have domestic operations. But I can point out that we have a sister organization called as a Japan Finance Corporation, which is 100% owned by the Japanese government and supervised under the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of External Trade and Industry. So I think the situation is more or less like BDF in Ukraine. But by the way, we are very much looking forward to making our financial contribution to the SMEs in Ukraine through BDF in the future. So coming back to Japan Finance Corporation, it's raising money from the Japanese government lending programs, as well as they are issuing their own bond in the domestic market. That means they are exposed to the, the market, and they are having dialogue with the market, financial market in Japan, and they are exposed to the market disciplines. That means they need to, maintain their financial health in order for them to raise money from the market. So that's a very much important point for BDF in the future. That's what I think. And in order for the BDF and other financial intermediaries to play their very much important role to promoting the SMEs, we need to point out the scale and performance of banking sector in Ukraine remains small in relation to its scale and potentials of economy. So in order to overcome this issue, we have to point out that it is of utmost importance to overcome the issue of non-performing loans. And Japan has its own experience of overcoming such issues. And we have Mr. Tanaka Masaru, who is an advisor to the finance minister since 2016. He's very much committed and dedicated to the reconstruction of Ukraine. And we would like to further extend his presence in Ukraine, along with whatever we can do through the training programs as well as funding in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a question to all of the panelists right now. I will also go astray a little bit. One term we use all the time is sustainable. And the question is, right now, donors are fine, donors help, and that's very important. But donors are not going to be here 10 years from now. So the question is, how do you see BDF be sustainable over the years? Audrey, do you have any ideas how it happens?
Actually, the war itself fostered positive changes, among others, with regards to sustainability. We are doing quite a range of ambitious reforms, which has direct impact on what we call sustainability, whether it's fiscal, macroeconomic, or social sustainability. And I think within the framework of our very core understanding how critical the moment is not to make a mistake, which might cost a lot, we see the sustainability line on all the efforts we put together with regards to the reform agenda, with regards to the obligations we meet, and with regards to the plan we have on reconstruction. Because coming back to the topic of our current panel, the role of BDF as the potential national development institution for SMEs, this is also part of the story for post-war time, for ongoing recovery, and for post-war reconstruction efforts, where sustainability, together with the transparency and accountability of the country itself, might be put in place. Because again, those two tiers, in addition to sustainability, which transparency and accountability are essential.
Christiane, do you have any view? How do you make sure that the work we do now is sustainable 10 years from now?
No, I think it's what Olga said, and then what I said earlier. I think it's a lot about how an institution can build trust. Yeah? Can build trust to be able to attract other investors or other financiers to do it, in particular international ones or domestic ones. Yeah? And I think that goes hand in hand with, on the one side, governance and transparency, and then smart policies, yeah, to keep the risk profile of a company, of a bank, of BDF in the future, yeah, in good shape. Yeah, and I think there is it is sometimes a bit a delicate position to be in between, on the one side, to be the government institution to help and support and assist SMEs in certain companies and certain industries, but providing this support without getting into a situation to increase your NPL portfolio, because a government institution, if it is asked to be the institution to step in when it's getting really, really bad, you might be able to do that once in a while. But if that is a major part of your policy overall, you will be pretty ill and dead pretty soon. Yeah. So it needs, on the one side, decent bankers, a commercial attitude, and on the other side, and combined with really the promotional activities and the policies the government is designing. Yeah. And that is really the key for success.
All right, let's go on to Maria. You have your work in the policy sector. How can the Ukrainian government and international partners assist in transforming the BDF? What kind of policy should we have in place?
Yeah, thank you for this question, because we really are looking at the SME sector a bit broader than only looking at the clients, the existing clients of the fund. So we're looking at the SME sector of what help might they need in general, all those who stay and who work in Ukraine and who are not necessarily bankable. And that's important. The SMEs are actually those who stay in the most risky areas when the big names are leaving because of the war. So if the big retailers or companies decide to relocate or to close their sites, these are the SMEs who still provide support to people, food, any services and so on. So that's why I applaud to the fund and to the Ministry of Finance for supporting them and for being really flexible. This is super important, and this 579 program, it played a really crucial role in supporting the SME. Now I'm just going to comment a bit on this sustainability issue. The thing is that these loans under this subsidized program, they are currently stand at approximately 40% of the total loan portfolio in Ukraine. That's a lot, right? That's a lot. And probably in the future, whatever, several years from now, this should be changed, and the banking sector should, take over a little bit after what now the government is doing by its subsidies. Another thing, again, applaud you for your flexibility, and want to outline the risks that are now most pressing for the SMEs. These are unsafe work conditions, electricity shortages, and shortages of people. And these risks are even more important than a lot of the others. So probably programs oriented on that would be a really nice addition to the portfolio. And then finally, only 12% of companies surveyed by the EBA are saying that they want to take loans. All the others, they rely to the other sources of funding. That's why thinking why these companies are unbankable and what can be done in terms of the education, in terms of partnerships and the other programs, that would be also a nice addition to fund's activity. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. Let me summarize. I know we're running out of time. Let me summarize round two. It's very simple. Ukraine has enacted the necessary laws for transforming BDF to a SME-focused institution, and it needs help to have it happen in short term, not long term. So I think international support of various kinds is needed, and you heard some examples of what can be done and lessons that can be learned from international organizations and countries that have SMEs, extensive SMEs. And the basic summary of both panels is that The country has taken the major steps to make SMEs a success and to have these SMEs assist with the recovery plans. And with the assistance and support of international financial institutions, a great more can be done in a shorter amount of time. Ukraine can't wait decades to do it. It has to be done quickly. So I would like to ask you to clap and thank the panelists for their insightful comments. But before we disband, it's my pleasure now to invite to the stage Svenja Schulze, Federal Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development of Germany, and Alexei Sobolev, Deputy Minister of the Economy of Ukraine, to introduce you to the SME Reliance Assistance Reliance. Bye-bye. So,
A second, sorry, just waiting a second for my colleague from the Ukrainian side. She's coming. No problem. We are on every panel, so.
Ja, wir können schon mal alle auf die Bühne bitten. Ich kann die sozusagen...
Dear colleagues, we just started that I announced the launch from today's SME Resilience Alliance. You know, that is really important. You heard that here in the panel, that we support the SMEs. And with this initiative, we like to boost the Ukrainian economy in recovery and growth via the support of small and medium-sized companies. And I would like to thank all the partners who joined this initiative. It is important to see also the needs of the small and medium-sized companies. And they are the backbone of the Ukrainian economy. And so we need to take into account what they need. And I would like to thank the Ukrainian partners, because the government is really a trusted partner in that alliance, and I'm convinced that together with all the partners of the alliance, we can really make a difference, and we can really help and support the SMEs. And with that, I would like to bring all partners here on the stage, because taking a picture is nothing without pictures. So we need all the partners of the small and medium-sized alliance here on the stage, taking a picture. And with that, my colleague will join us here and give also some interest. Yeah. Julia, we are the both who are on every panel, so join me. I just announced that we do these small and medium-sized, that we take a focus on small and medium-sized companies, and that it is important to build resilience for them. And therefore, we need a lot of partners. We
so
both
we
work together.
More partners on stage.
And we need you all on stage.
Yeah. Oh,
Just take the microphone. Give it back.
Yes.